Hello, fellow grapplers. This is Matt with the Grappling Podcast. And in this episode, Levi and I discuss some practical thoughts on self-defense. And this turned into a really cool episode in that it went a different direction than I originally thought when Levi suggested this topic. And I'm really glad it went the direction it did. So in this episode, you can look to learn more about why de-escalation is an underrepresented tool, how self-defense training seems to start in the middle of a confrontation for some reason, and the difference between a fight and a self-defense scenario. So thank you, everyone. If you end up enjoying this episode, please share it with a friend, like and subscribe. Otherwise, without further ado, here are some practical thoughts on self-defense.
Hear it.
We are recording, yeah. We're live.
I hear the beep.
Beep. There we go. I was watching The Legend of Ron Burgundy the other day. Kayla threw it on because we just wanted to watch something fun.
Yeah.
That movie's so good. It is so
That was the first
good.
one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, just Anchorman. Yeah.
Anchorman,
It was just such a brilliant movie, you know, like so good that when you look back at it, I know some people are not the fondest of Will Ferrell.
Sure.
I think he's hilarious. And those movies are just such well-executed nonsense. I love it.
I liked Talladega Nights. I had really
Yes.
never watched it before. Then I literally just watched it maybe this past year.
Didn't I bother you to watch that?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you haven't seen Talladega
I tell it
Nights?
to Jill all the time, like,
So good.
sweet 8 pounds, 6 ounce baby Jesus.
Yeah. I
Baby
love it.
Jesus.
I like my Jesus wearing a tuxedo t-shirt.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm formal, but I'm here to party.
I'm here to party. Oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
good.
But yeah, that was awesome. That has nothing to do with today's topic, but it does have to do with recording things.
Recording things.
Which we're doing right now.
That's true.
But no, today's episode was around self-defense, and you actually you wanted to do this episode.
I think just because when we talk about jiu-jitsu and training, you'll still get a lot of people. I mean, jiu-jitsu definitely has a strong roots in martial arts and self-defense and people using martial arts for fighting purposes. So some people might not be using martial arts as far as competitive fighting, like to say I'm going to be a mixed martial artist or to be in that cage or that kind of spot, a grappler. Yeah, but some people want it to feel more just capable. If something were to happen in a fight or a situation, like people want to learn fighting to say like I have something in my back pocket in case something were to happen. So even though jiu-jitsu is a lot on the ground, people still try to learn martial arts for surviving self-defense situations. So
That's funny. I feel less equipped to survive a self-defense confrontation after having been training for a long time.
You know what? I was going to tell you actually with our last podcast when we were talking about tournaments. I wanted to do a tournament or like a format where people would wear like you get like a issued like a what do you call it, like a flannel.
Okay.
Like you have to compete with each other with like extra clothing on.
Okay.
But how many people talk about to say, well, if they had a jacket in
Yeah.
a self-defense situation,
You
I
have a
could
winter
still-
coat. Dang it.
But to say like I could still do cross collars and all that.
Yeah,
And I
for
go,
sure.
Cool. Let's see it.
I actually did get cross-collared in a flannel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was
I'm
actually
sorry,
here
man.
at the... actually, no, it was Ezekiel.
That's with your brawny man.
Yeah, when I was the Brawny Man for Halloween.
But I wanted to see like have something like that, and like people are
It
moving,
comes on quick.
and let's say like it comes off of your
Oh.
head or like kind of hockey fighting style. Because Danaher talked about some of that like that in his like 8th volume on his Feet to Floor. He did all self-defense for whatever reason, but he was using hockey jerseys as far as.
Was it weird seeing him
It
in
was
not
really
a rash
weird,
guard?
But you're saying about
That man's going to be buried in a rash guard.
because he was a bouncer for 15 years or whatever, saying that like people would pull shirts over people's faces and he's punching them and striking them and all that stuff. Like, but people just use the argument to say, well, if you train the gi, it'd be applicable to self-defense stuff. But gis are made to withstand counter forces and pulls. Like Hodger Gracie tore a guy's gi sleeve with his grip. Like, let's put it that way. Like, even something that's built for gripping can still get torn. So, like, how things have changed. But anyways, I wanted a tournament format to say, like, you wear normal clothes and see, like, how grappling would look different.
You need to watch that Ultimate Self-Defense Championship.
What? That's
I've heard about it. Sounds really cool.
I never heard about that.
Yeah, they took, like, it's on YouTube. They've had, like, 2 seasons of it.
Yeah.
And they have, like,
styles.
someone who's, like, a grappler. Yeah, someone's Muay Thai artist. Like, that type of thing. MMA fighter. And they put them in various scenarios where they have to escape or fight on a bus or, like, It sounds actually really up our alley. I'm surprised we haven't watched it yet together, but
we should have a event where people have to fight like in a plane, and then suddenly the plane will drop, and suddenly they're floating in air.
Oh
now,
my god!
and
they all hit their
yeah.
heads on the roof.
Yeah, it's like
the ceiling.
then it goes down, and goes back up again. Like,
but no. So off the topic of the fun but silly, right?
yes.
So self-defense, grappling. A lot of actually some schools have built their whole curriculum around this concept.
Correct. So I thought that was important for us to talk about because we haven't really ever touched too much on like certain mindsets that surround that, I should say.
Yeah, that's it. I would say also, everyone, this is not a prescription. This is just our thoughts on grappling, self-defense, some of like you said, like some of the communication around
Correct.
it, methods being used out there, and what we think we might try if we had to defend ourselves potentially.
Matt's been in more fights than I have.
So after elementary school, I got in quite a few, but that's pretty normal. But at least I think it's normal, right? But I actually
where'd you go to school?
After in Nina.
Okay, then it's normal.
Nina's actually like a pretty chill place too.
I was joking.
But anyways, I've only been in one like real fight after that, if you want to call it a real fight.
Was it mutual? Was it like surprise? Was it?
It was like it wasn't something where we sat there and like, I'll meet you at 4.
Sure.
Yeah, it was actually it was a middle school, so it still got the geist of a school fight.
I see it, yeah.
And we started throwing blows and whatnot, and I ended up actually all I used was elbows and knees.
Muay Thai, man.
I dropped them.
And
then I ran out of the YMCA as fast as I could.
Was it like in a basketball court or something?
I was in the food center area.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All I'm hearing in my brain is like the squeaking of shoes.
As they're running away.
Around and then
It was actually really fast. It was just really quick. But anyways, that's not the purpose of today's episode. But anyway, the thing I actually want to say too is like fights are scary and exhausting, and there's a lot of factors I wanted to bring up before we talk about a couple like jiu-jitsu specific things.
Correct.
On why they're so dangerous and why they're to be avoided.
100%.
Because 1, do they have a weapon? 2, do they have a bloodborne pathogen?
Oh man, you're reading my brain.
Yeah. Will bystanders do something to your benefit or your detriment, right? Like, do they have friends? Do you have friends? Are you alone? Does the attacker know how to fight? That'd be also not great, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're also assuming they're the attacker, right? Mm-hmm. But also there's the things that you don't think about a lot with martial arts stuff, where like biting, groin strikes, soccer kicks, things like that, where even just wacky stuff of like stomping on somebody's limb, or just weird things that we just don't do. There's no rules protecting you. If you tap, there's nothing saying they have to stop.
Correct.
And what are you fighting on? That's actually one of the ones I worry about a lot. Trampoline. But pavement hurts.
Yeah.
Pavement hurts. People die from falling on the pavement. It's a messy scenario. So I guess the big thing before we get into this is like the best thing you can do is just not fight.
It should be de-escalation. I think for some reason people are like thinking that fights are inevitable. It's like I don't feel that's the case. I spent a good majority of my jiu-jitsu or my martial arts training in the realm of self-defense and self-defense discussions. And a lot of times it was always surrounding this feeling of like, all right, you're in a fight.
You just appear in a fight.
But it doesn't like do well as far as like, let's say for example, being a dentist office. I don't know why giving this analogy, but it's going to work. You're going to a dentist and it's like you're fixing cavities and blah, blah, blah. But everything at the end is always like brush your teeth, floss your teeth, all these things. Prevention. So that you don't have to be in here. Like they're not trying to say, keep doing this so we can make money. It's like prevention. But I feel like a lot of martial arts schools feel like if we talk prevention, then you're just not going to show up. It's like, well, we actually don't want you to get in a fight. It's like, but you're teaching people how to kick and punch. Like that was always a weird thing when I was in karate, where it was like they would teach you like roundhouse kicks and like all these kinds of things for fighting.
Kicks.
But the idea was that when you went to school and you used it against someone, now suddenly someone's very hurt. And it's like, well, that's the only tools I had to manage this aggressive situation. And it's like, no, you don't go from someone calling you a hamburger face to kicking them in the face. Like
making them a hamburger face.
Yeah, that's messed up. You don't do that. And so same with the real world situations. Like I think if people put more time and energy into de-escalating situations, it doesn't mean that there are these horror stories of lightning strike situations where You know,
Yeah,
someone's
someone gets
randomly
attacked,
or
yeah.
whatever. It's like, yeah, I get it,
Mugged,
but
mugging, that's probably honestly the thing that will probably happen the most is
and
like
I've always
mugged.
heard that when people are very self-aware of those situations potentially happening, you're already in the mindset of doing preventive work. So, for example, like
Oh, yeah.
if people don't want to get robbed, they have, whatever the motion light stuff in their house, or they're locking their
Yeah,
doors, or their
security systems.
whatever security, whatever the case may be. It's like you're already making yourself less of a target just by the fact that you're being aware that you could be a target. It's like, so for self-defense too, it's like if you're into that, you're already doing things potentially to lessen your chance of running into self-defense situations.
You actually had a cool thing, because we were kind of chatting about this a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
and you said you read a book that had like kind of a cool 3-step thing about how
violence.
like that was an interesting one of like where not to go if you want to prevent being in a fight.
I think it was just like giving really big guidelines. It does not mean that these things. And the fight is a good word for it too, because what does a fight imply? A fight implies like two people are having something where they're
Versus a
contesting against each other,
brawl,
versus a brawl where it's multiple people, or self-defense to say like, I think self-defense sometimes is more like randomized mugging than really, some sort of mutual thing. Like they're trying to get something out of the situation versus like, I'm just proving to this other person I'm
yeah,
better than
those are
them.
two very different things.
Right.
Someone trying to get money from you for survival or like whatever their motivation is, purposes, versus my ego, bro.
Yeah, this is like escalating. So the 3 was wherever people are inebriated.
Yeah, avoid those places.
Drugs, alcohol, even ego, anything that people are just in an inebriated state. The second one was where rival teams gather, rival groups. So, I mean, that could be anything, but sporting events.
Sports bars.
The third one was where young men conjugate. It's like, there you go. And so you think of any of those situations, like usually it's just that ego of chest beating and things like that will escalate these things. But the idea is that both people are not backing down from it. The problem is, past that point, my favorite thought process was saying that, when Matt was talking about, like, you never know if they have fighting experience or weapons or whatever, was that if you humiliate someone, they will rise to the highest level of violence they are capable of. That they're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean like if Matt, doesn't feel like he'd ever use a weapon on someone, he might just be like, well, I'm going to sue you, or something like that. Like that's my highest level.
Yeah,
Let's say that I'll do it.
I'm going to throw money at that problem.
But somebody else could be like, no, you insulted me in front of my friends or whatever. Like, I feel it's totally okay to pull a weapon on you or destroy something.
Or how about this? Let's put it in a context I think parents could sympathize with.
Yeah.
It's late at night. You just tucked your kids in. You're going to go lock the doors.
Sure.
Someone actually is walking into your house, right? Is your thing to be like de-escalate, or is it to be grab? Especially if they have like if they're not like they're giving vibes that something's not good, right? You know, it's like you will escalate to the best violence you can in that moment, like whether it's like something hard, like something.
But it's like
big.
we talked about right there, like at those situations, like when we talk self-defense, I think self-defense to me is not like a fight. It's not like why would you have self-defense if you are both involved with escalating the situation?
Yeah, that's true.
Like if I'm at a bar and some guy bumped me or whatever the case may be, I could feel like very ego saving to be like, hey, why'd you do that? Now it becomes this whole like chest, inflating thing. And
that's why in the Midwest we both apologize.
Yeah,
sorry about that. Sorry
about that. Versus saying, hey, it's my bad, I'll bite, or you actually bump into someone, they're upset. Instead of saying, hey, you shouldn't be doing whatever, to de-escalate, to buy the person a beer, to leave, like to do all these things. I think to Matt's point, because when people are engaged in a fight, you have no clue what they're capable of. You have no clue if they have weapons, weapons, what kind of training they have, what they would do to you if suddenly you did become incapacitated, because there are real things like soccer kicks and whatnot.
Yeah. Or say you win.
Yeah.
That's not always good either.
No, I
like
always have situations where like
massive amounts of money.
You push someone away and all of a sudden they trip and fall, they bump their head on the bar table or whatever, now they're in a concussion. Or you win, but this guy had a weird cut or sliced you open or whatever, and they had bloodborne pathogens and whatever.
Or here's a weird one. They're a jerk and you get in a fight or whatever because you didn't de-escalate it, and you decided to start hitting each other. You win. They are radically well off and they sue you.
Yeah.
And they have a good lawyer and they beat you. So even though you might have won the physical engagement, now you owe them $50,000, you know?
This is part of the fact that, let's say if you were to engage in some sort of physical encounter with somebody, you have to find so many ways to show that you were actively trying to de-escalate the situation. Like, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you get out of there? Why didn't you
just walk away?
And it's like you have to show so much that you were trying to find ways to de-escalate the situation. Otherwise, like Matt said, like you can easily win in somebody's favor to say like, no, he did this or he broke my arm or whatever. It's like now you're dealing with financial self-defense. Now you're dealing with lawsuits and things like that. Like it's just
cool, dude. You're in jail now for like a year and a half. You know, like
but then
and it's on your record forever.
The other points is like the muggings. Sexual assaults, all these other things, or robbery or whatever. It's like those aren't self-defense situation. I mean, you're trying to defend yourself and stop, but it's not like a fight. Like in my previous.
So wait, hold on. I think you misspoke there. Those are self-defense situations. A fight is not a self-defense situation.
Okay, yeah, correct. So fighting
versus being mugged is a self-defense situation.
It's funny because when it's like when I did previous training with the Gracie situation, like Gracie combatives is very like fight versus fight. Like you are fighting somebody. Like I get it. Like someone could have a weapon or whatever, but it's like I think if someone was mugging you and they did not have any sort of physical, like if someone walked up to you and was like, "Hey, give me your money," but they're showing nothing to like escalate the situation, a weapon or a gun or a knife, what would you do?
Mug them. No,
man, I'm
I'd be like, hey, are you? Honestly, I'd still try to de-escalate. I'd be like, are you okay, dude? What's going on?
Yeah.
You know, because they also might be screwed up on drugs or something.
But what if they demonstrated like a weapon?
I actually had a note here. This is the best advice I got from because like when I was in martial arts I still am in martial arts, but when I was in karate, sometimes we'd do like knife defense stuff, and you know, it's like some of it was kind of interesting, but really they actually gave us some good advice in this. Pretty much let me look at my notes here. Okay. So the best thing you can do is just give them your wallet. 100%. Just give them your wallet. Like, who cares? And honestly, nowadays you have so few dollars in your wallet. It's like, whatever. And there's nothing in that wallet that could tank me. So I just like,
that's a weird point.
Give them my wallet, give them my phone. If that's what they want, I'll just give them the stuff and then I'll go buy new ones. Yeah. I'm lucky enough to be in a position that I can do something like that.
Yeah.
If you see me around, don't mug me.
Easy phone, easy wallet.
Yeah. But no, because
that's
like
kind of weird. Like you can't hack into a phone really too much. You can't. A card would get canceled.
It's like it sucks. It definitely sucks, and it would be a huge hassle, and it'd be scary. But at the same time, I'd just be like, "Yep, here you go." The only time I would though start escalating it, and this is actually funny enough when from our old like knife combat training, because they also talked about how if you try to defeat somebody with a knife, you are going to get cut and you might die, right? Sure. So essentially you're already starting off with the assumption that you might die doing this. So it has to be a scenario where you are okay with that coin toss. And like a scenario could be like you have your kids with you and they start separating you, you know, something like that versus like, yep, take the money. Okay. And then you just grab your kids and run away, you know, because if they wanted your money, you actually just made it easy for them and like they're off to mug somebody else. Obviously, I'd go, you know, call the police and stuff, but just get up, go, get out of there.
Sure.
Because if they wanted to kill you, they would have killed you already, probably. And then
I was actually going to interview with that because they said with some of those violence things, like if they wanted to hurt you and stab you, they would have done it without you being aware of it.
Yeah, keep your distance. That was another big thing too. Don't get close. You know, that was another big one. But yeah, just like to only engage them if you're all right with the fact that you could die doing it, kind of thing, and it makes sense. And so that's the kind of the weird part, just because, and that always stuck in my mind. And I thought it was actually very good self-defense advice. And it kind of actually follows, like Robert Greene talks about one of the laws of power is do nothing or crush completely. So because like in between just ends up making, his is obviously from like a political context of like you create enemies, you create nation states against you, whatever. But in this case, I think that also holds true. It's just like either do nothing or be like, I'm going with everything I got, and I might die.
Did I ever tell you my favorite mind trick in self-defense?
Yeah, I think you did. Stop.
That one? Yeah, the whole like they ask you for your wallet or whatever, and they say,
"Oh, that one." No,
my wallet's ontology.
Yeah, and they go, "What?"
Right, and then because if you say, "I don't have my wallet's at home,"
yeah, they're expecting that response.
It's very expected. But if you say something that kind of makes sense but doesn't make sense, it like has a skip in their head, and they say that it interrupts the OODA loop, like observe, whatever, like decision making, and it makes them like freeze for a second, and that's your opportunity to like, if you need to engage, versus like stop, don't hurt me, I don't do whatever you want. Like they're expecting that. But if you just say like my wallet's ontology, it's like so into me now. It was like from some article in like 2005 Black Belt magazine. I saw it and I was like, that's pretty cool.
Untested, folks. Untested, yes. But a funny idea to talk about.
I do that to pass guard all the time, actually, to be honest.
You should say ontology?
Yeah, I say my guard's ontology. Guard.
I do wonder if people are a lot more like, hey, careful about reaching for that wallet nowadays, that people have concealed carry, because you could just be reaching for your gun.
It is weird.
I
think you bring up a good point about modernization of some of those situations. I also think some self-defense situations get sold very quickly because it is kind of, I don't like the word sexy, but it's a very dramatized, maybe it's a better word for it.
Or if someone got hurt and they have been hurt from
saying,
it, they might be like, this is what I need.
Movies are sold.
Oh, yeah.
Movies are sold on the fighting element. You want to feel capable, like some sort of Jack Reacher or John Wick or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it looks cool to be good, but those kind of choreographed fights aren't at all what real situations are. And on top of the fact, those movie worlds make it seem like these things are frequent. Because obviously you're framing it in the sense like this guy's an assassin or this guy's involved with some bad guys and they're fighting. It's like, no, I would love, when we talk about like jiu-jitsu stats as far as like what self-defense situations occur like within the Fox cities or whatever. Like obviously other parts of the world, things are higher up for percentages of people maybe need to have some sort of training or whatever. But it's like, what happens where it's like, are you spending all this time focusing on a situation that maybe you can de-escalate and avoid completely, and anything past that point, it's like,
you're going to be glad tomorrow that you didn't fight.
Well, but that's the case. But like I said, some of these previous training situations I was in, they would just jump to right away saying, okay, you're in a fight.
The attacker's got
It's like,
this.
why do you have this? And that's why I always made the joke of like, imagine training all the time for bear attacks with like some guys dressed up like in a fake bear outfit. It's like, but then when the real situation happens and there's a real bear, also, first of all, it's a real bear, meaning it will actually try to mess you up.
Yeah.
It's not like your training partner that's just kind of play fighting with you.
Stronger than you can imagine.
And then on the other end going, are there not preventive ways to avoid situations that you are running into bears?
Yeah.
You don't run into like, I'm sure at Yellowstone, they're like, here's what you do to prevent bear things. You don't hang this stuff up. You don't do this. You don't go out there.
Don't cover yourself in meat and run through the prairie.
But it doesn't stop really randomized situations where something could happen and it's okay, now you're there. Here's rough rules, right? So it's like, was it brown bear? You curl up, or black bear? You make.
Oh, it was a black bear. What was it? Fight back. Oh yeah, it was hold on.
I think it's that.
Brown bear, fight for your life. Black bear, play dead. No. Other way around. Other way around. Black bear, fight for your life. Brown bear, play dead.
Red touches black.
Yeah.
You're okay, Jack?
Yeah. But when yellow touches red, you're totally dead? I don't know.
But those are like guidelines.
We should ask Aaron these questions, actually, because he worked at a camp.
Oh, that's right. He was Yellowstone dude.
Yeah. He was a ranger dude.
But stuff like that where it's like, but those are big guidelines, but those things don't happen out of nowhere. Those are real situations with real consequences. So even when people do train self-defense, it's kind of interesting because when I've talked about, actually, I'll make an interesting comment or make a statement. I used to think it was weird that people would play sword fighting.
I think it's fun.
Well, just let me get my evolution here. Because let's say, for example, like we know some places that people sit and train like sword training and they fight each other and things like that. But it's not just like foam, right? So foam can be something. But to me, I always thought, well, it's like they're kind of play fighting, but it's like there's not actually a real threat of someone like, if this messes up right now, that my arm's getting sliced or I'm going to die.
Oh, yeah. Well, same with jiu-jitsu.
So that's where I came around. Like I excluded jiu-jitsu for the longest time for it. Not to say that we were better, but like I just excluded them. Like it would look different if it was real. Then the thought process came, well, what if we had a jiu-jitsu match where it was like, now for real, I'm going to actually choke you out and I'm going to only go until you pass out and maybe I'll hold on. Like you'll actually die.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, I'm going to break your arm, but I'm actually going to break your arm. There's no tapping out. How would our jiu-jitsu look different?
Be much more guarded.
Yeah, but it'd be a lot more defensive. Nobody would play it. And that's where it allowed me to feel better about like some of the sword fighting stuff because I'm like, they're doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially if they're using metal swords.
Yeah, but we're play fighting too.
Yep.
You know, we're just like having this play situation. So for me, I always thought like if they had real swords and real situations, that would look different. But then once I examined myself with jiu-jitsu, I'm like, it's the same thing, you know? But to me, I think when people are training self-defense, to think that it's going to completely translate over to actual real efficacy is what like Matt talked about. Like you have to have real, continuous, actual self-defense situations and fights to even come close to giving your 2 cents about it.
Yeah.
Like I don't have fighting experience, so I can theorize, but you don't hold that, you know, like I don't have the experience. So, but it's those kind of things where like Matt was saying, Matt and I were talking earlier about feeling like you want to feel capable and strong. It's like, I don't think you'll meet many people who want to feel like they can't handle themselves if a real fight were to happen.
Yeah.
You know, so people want to have like fight experience and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know, but if you get mounted by someone from a jiu-jitsu person, like it's a scary experience. Like most people will gas themselves out and go crazy, even just in a grappling situation, let alone what I would assume a adrenaline-filled situation a fight would bring. Because there was not the closest I got to one time, but one time I was finishing up morning classes, and Jill texted me and she said, I pulled into the Target parking lot, and some guy whipped his door into my car and scratched my car, like whipped it open. And Jill got out of the car because she was in a car with a conversation on the phone and walked out and kind of told dude like, hey, you threw your car door into my car. And he looked back and just shrugged and walked off.
Whoa.
And then Jill called me all upset, going like, I'm waiting out here. I called like, you know, whatever the local PD people, but like, I don't know what's going to happen when this guy comes back.
Take a picture of it and then just go somewhere else.
But it was like one of those things where suddenly I'm like, all right, I'm going to drive over. But even on the ride over, it's only like a 3-minute drive from here. It's like in the back of my mind, I'm like, not like heart racing by any means, but it's kind of like
getting ready.
But you just don't know.
Yeah.
You have no clue what this person can offer or do. Even though I train grappling, I don't train fighting situations. And it's like, you know, it's like as much as I've theorized and train some processes of distance management, things like that, you have no clue what it's all going to look like. Like, you know, and the same thing too, like I would not sit here going, all right, I'm going to go defend your honor or do something. It's just like, you're just there. You want to de-escalate.
Hun, you know?
Yeah. It's like,
sorry, hun, we can pay for it.
I
we can do
your guard
this.
retention. You're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if I were to ever theoretically be in a situation like that, de-escalation, distance management, like Matt said, like don't let them get close to you. If you get on the ground, get back up to your feet. Like
sounds funny, but yeah,
it's like that's what Tim Kennedy said. It's like the first thing you should learn grappling is to get back up on your feet.
You know, and there's something about grappling too. It's funny, as much as we love grappling, like grappling functions in an opposite way of striking. In that grappling, you try to overwhelm a joint with multiple limbs, right? Like you try to control a portion of their body with all of your body. That's actually a really bad idea in striking, right? If you're holding both of somebody's, if you do a 2-on-1 grip, their other arm is there to punch you. Yeah. Like, so like there's some things you'd have to make adjustments with. Maybe in like the next 5 minutes here, it's just because we did actually talk about some very practical concepts, but it didn't have anything really to do with grappling.
Sure.
When it comes to self-defense, like what are some of the things, what's one thing you would try to do besides distance management and de-escalation, obviously?
Sure.
What is like, if it came to a situation you do have to fight, what's like 1 or 2 things you would do and 1 or 2 things you would avoid?
Well, obviously I would avoid situations with them being on top of me.
Yeah.
That would be a nice thing to avoid. Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing I remember hearing about is getting elbows away from the body. So if they did potentially have weapons or something like that, they can't reach for their pockets. So keeping their elbows up by their shoulder line.
You're assuming they're on the ground already.
Oh, you're talking. I thought you were saying talk about grappling situations. Like now, besides de-escalation and distance management,
I'm saying those options are already used and no longer available.
I would call my friend who's got a sniper rifle on the far right, and he just like,
hey, well, let's meet back here in 2 hours.
There was some meme I saw that was like, you drive down the road and a squirrel's coming across the road and suddenly you swerve away, and then also like in your hour of need, the squirrel arrives.
I see the spider version of that.
Yeah, but I'd say like the squirrel arrives like in your hour of need. So I would assume that the couple squirrels I've dodged would come to protect me.
I think there's a turkey that owes me.
But yeah, I think if those aren't those, I mean, if I can't distance management, I mean, it's just a good pair of running shoes. Get out of the situation.
What if you can't run away?
Rear naked chokes for sure.
That's what you'd go for?
Choke them for sure.
How are you going to take them down?
A Russian tie? No, I don't know. I mean, my classic one was get to a front clinch, squat down for a single leg, drop into the ground with a single leg, and then, either hold them down there or drop into a single leg and leave the situation. But if you can't leave, it's like drop them, get sideways. I mean, I'm not against arm triangles. Arm triangles would be great too from the mount.
Except for they can bite you.
Don't bite me. Yeah, I mean, there are those. I mean, if you're going against a zombie, that would suck too.
Or even just a person. They could bite the crap out of your arm.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, but anything
your
being
neck.
away. But when you say things like can't get away, then I could say things like I could drop him down to a single leg. I could drop back to a heel hook and shred their leg. And it's like, now you can't follow me. Like there's no way you're going to strike me from, for someone who is not aware of leg locks, for me to drop back and I'm aware of leg locks, for me to reap your leg and just destroy your heel.
I'd be kind of scared to go on my back on concrete.
But when you're saying you're dropping someone down to the ground, then it's like, okay, you get on top of them. Now you're on top. What would you do?
Oh, what would I do?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, you're talking about
knee ride and punch.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one too. I cast fist.
Well, honestly, I think I would just go straight to my striking training.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if it happened to go to grappling, I'd just try to hold on and do my best.
Again, I think when we talk about like life or death situations, I think that's kind of like
pull out my gun.
When you strike and punch, those are things to me that are more allowable, because then at that point you're getting away from like the prettiness of this moment versus saying, okay,
this is a sloppy, scary moment.
But you're in front of a judge. Now you have to explain this whole situation to a judge to make it seem rational for what you did.
Yeah.
So that's when people say, "Oh, I'm just going to like throw him down and strike and punch." It's like, how is a judge going to say like, was it okay for you to punch and strike this person? Oh, you guys
probably
just had a heated argument about a football team, and now you're punching and striking. That was okay.
Yeah, that's silly.
You have to like have this weight behind you.
I think I know what I would do. I'd probably get punched in the face. That's probably what I would do in a fight.
Just let it happen first.
No, I would just try not to, but I'd probably still get punched right in the face.
Well, and that's what people are talking about, scalability of punches, to say like you will get hit. It's your job to mitigate how much you get hit. But I think if it's for self-defense, like not self-defense, for life or death, then it's like, then your goal at that point is that you're prepped to kill this person.
Yeah.
So if you're prepped to kill this person, it'd be like a rear naked choke, put them out, and just keep holding on until they stop twitching.
And then you're out of the horror movie.
Yeah, exactly. But then at that point, then you have to go, I mean, now you have police involved, things like that. Now it's like you have to rationalize why you did this.
Pretty crazy.
Probably the last topic I'll get on with that is the multiple attackers type thing.
That thing's weird.
Which is weird. I think a lot of people like this idea where it's like multiple people.
Only 4 people can attack you at once.
It will take turns coming in.
No, because the space that they take. You ever saw that?
What?
Oh, there's a thing going around for a while about how only 4 people could punch you at the same time. Because they're
you're saying like there's only so much space your face could occupy.
Yeah, and like them going shoulder to shoulder and stuff.
That's funny.
So like 4 or 5 people.
Tell that to It Man.
Yeah. Yeah, running shoes is a good one.
My favorite example was to say, if you can't de-escalate, if you can't get out, I'm just saying what me in that space would do if let's say I theoretically was in the situation. I would say you have to be as violent as possible to one person.
Oh, okay.
Take one person, be as violent as possible to deter everybody else wanting to mess with you.
Oh.
That's your only way. If you can't run and get out of the situation,
good luck, yeah.
But that goes back to your point of saying either be soft or be...
Yeah, essentially do nothing or like you got to give it all. Like those are the 2 modes.
One person, because at that point if they scatter and leave and whatnot, then at least you can go to a judge and say, I was surrounded by 3 or 4 guys.
I feel like you'd be fine in the judge scenario in this case.
But this
who knows? You never know.
I'm saying you could do what
unless
you want
the judge
at that
is
point.
their friend.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's a murder. But to say like at that point you have weight to do those kind of things.
Yeah.
You can say like, I can do.
You always have to be punching from like metaphorically from the back foot. If you think about it, cops are given the ability to escalate prior to the person, right? Because for good reason. But as a citizen, you actually can only meet them at whatever their like violence level is.
Oh, sure. That's a weird point. But that's why I'm like, I mean, with women's self-defense can scale as much as they want because they're already put in a situation, at least physicality-wise, where they're already on your back
A lot of
foot.
women don't just sit there and duke it out like guys do in a dumb way.
But that's that whole ego thing where it's like inebriated is one thing, but it's like doesn't have that same chest bumping type stuff. But in those self-defense situations, like you're not gonna find many women that will have to prove their case in order to be let off the hook in those situations.
I feel like you'd probably. Oh no, we're not lawyers now, right?
Right, exactly. But two men fighting each other, now you have to hear both sides. Now you got to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously things like when there's muggings or house, break-ins and things like that gets weird.
Just thinking, if you de-escalate every fight that you can throughout the course of your entire life, that leaves only the fights where you're getting jumped. And if you think about it, like you said, if you're not in a spot to get jumped, your chances of getting jumped is probably quite low.
Yeah.
And therefore, you should be good to go.
I think it's kind of very equivalent to let's say driving, where it's you could be a very defensive driver and be sound, but there will always be someone that suddenly did not obey the rules. And it's you can't stop saying, I'm going through a green light and someone just blew past a red light.
Yeah. And also location makes a big difference. When I drive in big cities, I'm like, oh my goodness. I like driving around Appleton because everybody's chill.
Yeah.
You know?
But those are those things where it's you can't always protect those things. So it's in some of those situations, it's just interesting. So I would say in general with grappling, it's if you feel to me, the only time I'd ever use a grappling situation would be if, let's say, this person is a threat to other people and nobody else is stopping, then you could maybe grapple and get this person down to the ground, take them off their feet, so now they can't use their feet to bridge and push and whatever. Or say you're locked in a room with somebody and you just
some wacky scenario.
Jill always liked the idea of the rear naked choke because she's like, I could teach my daughters a rear naked choke because if you can't get out, you can always at least choke somebody.
That's a weird one too. Wrist control. If you've got really good grips on somebody's wrists, you can do a lot of. You can do a lot. Yeah, you could probably de-escalate if you had to get physical a little bit. I think, but then again, though, people moving fast and violently, it's really hard to control someone.
How would you fight against a rabid dog?
I honestly, because I actually thought about this a little bit, but in the next minute here. So I have thought about this because I used to run a lot.
Sure.
And I was like, what if a dog tried to come out and get me? Because you'll hear dogs barking.
This is a real thing.
This is way more
dog attacks.
Yeah, this is way more probable.
Yep.
And I've been chased by dogs before.
Ugh, that's scary.
Yeah, and luckily I was on my bike, but they are fast on a bike. I barely got away.
Yeah.
But I try to get high up. I try to use my ape instincts, and try to climb something. Get on top of a van.
We're so civilized.
I climb. I'll climb a tree. I'll try to get up. Really, but if
is that your instincts, or did you actually ever have to climb something up high to?
No, it's something I thought about when I was running.
Okay.
And when I used to run, I'd be like, man, if I got chased by a dog, what should I do? And I was like, I should probably just climb because that's probably my best bet. But if I have my kids with me, now that's a scarier scenario, and I'm just gonna have
fend
to.
For yourself.
I'm gonna have to do the we're doing something here, and I got to go for it. And honestly, probably kicks.
I will mention one thing. People talk about pepper spray, things like that. I remember hearing this thing where in strong self-defense situations, you lose a lot of fine motor skills.
Oh,
that people can't necessarily reach for something.
I believe that.
And
yeah,
use it.
When you have adrenaline just flying through your body.
So it's fine motor movement to be able to maneuver some small weapon or some small thing to be able to spray. If we were just sitting here going, okay, there's no adrenaline.
Yeah.
But in those situations,
I believe that you have to twist the cap and it's in the horror movie when they're trying to put the key in the door. It's impossible.
Well, I think if you couldn't get out of a dog situation, I mean, it'd just be a rear naked choke. I would
go for kicks.
Yeah, but you're dealing with it. You'd have to have such strong kicks that the dog would have to be incapacitated to not be.
If it bites my shoe or something, I'm way more. Dogs can turn very fast, and they're used to their neck being attacked.
Oh, interesting.
So they could bite you when they're trying to rear naked choke
pull
you.
Guard on you?
No, they can literally turn their head. We used to foster care for dogs. And they can move, they can get underneath. They're used to fighting like that. Yeah. They're not used to fighting. I need to make them fight my way, which would be, I'm going to keep you at a distance and I'm going to try to kick. Because in the scenario I'm discussing, my kids are with, right? Because if my kids are not with, I'm going to book it out of there and try to climb something if I can.
Sure.
And then kick behind me if I have to, if it gets too close.
It's interesting.
But I honestly would probably do kicking. And if I just got back from the plant, like if I had my boots on, I'd be way safer.
I was trying to think because I just don't know how focused they would be, like how, like depending on whatever, like let's say if they're
just a stomp kick, like keep stomping,
I guess
stomping, keep stomping, keep stomping, stomp towards the nose. Because if they're not a gigantically huge dog, if you're stomping this way, your foot's bigger than their mouth.
Yeah,
you might be able to get them in the nose good or something. And their dogs aren't like dumb like that. If it was attacking you, it might run away.
What about goose?
I've been chased by a goose. I was riding my bicycle and there was babies by it, and I was just on a path, and it just started coming after me.
Animal attacks are a real thing.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
The goose, I feel like I honestly, I keep coming back to kicking because it's my longest weapon.
Yeah.
I just use I'd keep kicking. That's really the best I got, I think.
I would think so. Striking wise, you want
to
throw elbows.
Plus I have pants and I have shoes on. So I'm like, I got at least some armor on, but my hands are completely open. So like, if I don't have to use my hands, I won't.
I'd rather just scene from I Am Legend where his dog turns, like it turned rabid and he had to choke it out. But he was like prepped by it. He was like by the dog and he was like ready for it. Like he was starting to turn and he choked out.
I'd use a rope.
I say all this thing because it's my dog's first birthday today. So
it really is?
Yeah.
It's Nimbus's first birthday today?
Yeah. I got him a cake for him to mow down on later.
Is it a dog cake or a regular cake?
It's just a regular cake.
That's cool.
The dog eats his puke sometimes, so he's going to care.
I know, he'd be fine with it. You're going to find blue puke now, though.
Yeah, it's like white vanilla cake or something like that.
So. Oh, he's going to love it.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. You should videotape that.
I brought him to PetSmart today to Garrett. That's his happy place.
That's cool.
It's PetSmart.
I think that's a good thing to end on.
Like, oh, happy loving dog.
But yeah, but a quick recap. I know people might have come into this episode looking for specific techniques, but we did give techniques. They're just not grappling techniques. They're they're general ideas about how to maybe prevent being in a fight. I
actually kind of like the ending topic because when we talk about like dog fights and things like that, we're talking out of like two guys on a couch that are just talking dumb, stupid stuff. Like, what would you do? Because as much as fighting situations are concerned, like I have not been in a real fighting situation, so I can't say like you should lean on this. It's me going, if I found myself in this, like I think this would be what I would try to do.
I hope that I would do this.
I would hope that this would happen, But this is where it goes into like, and this is the honest truth right here. No amount of pseudo training will get you prepped for a real fight. The same with, we talk about competition training. Like no amount of studio training or gym training will prep you enough for a competition match. Like
I second that.
Adrenaline will hit differently, things like that.
Or even just how much you're trying to move.
Yeah.
That's what got me, honestly. It wasn't even adrenaline. It was just having to keep moving.
But you can't mimic the same situation. So if you're trying to want to mimic a self-defense situation, like I don't know what to tell you. Like it's not real.
Stefan Gesting says to put gloves on once a year.
Yeah.
And with your buddies that you trust to do jujitsu with, add in a couple like strikes, just to at least help a little bit.
It's not real adrenaline. You're not doing real
definitely
stuff.
Not.
So it's like it's going to feel different if you're actually trying to punch and strike.
But it is probably better than nothing.
It just depends on what your value that you want into it. Like your lizard brain's going to switch. Like that's why I say about like, let's say knife training. I give you a fake knife and you're my friend. If you weren't my friend with a fake knife, it would look different.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
It was still like, I think that's not fun. But then even if you're my friend and I give you a real knife, suddenly it's like still cagey.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be careful with that. Like, don't want you to hit me. But now you're not my friend and you have a real knife. Like,
big problem.
You're not going to be like, oh, if I mess this move up, we'll just reset. It's like, nope. That's why I never liked the marker training. Because the marker training is still like avoidance, but it's not like your brain can differentiate a marker versus a real knife.
I did that once and it was just enlightening to be like, wow, I got really cut up in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
5 seconds.
But I think people just never bank on the adrenaline level. And so if you ever want to feel that difference, go from a martial arts where you're training to do a competition version of your martial arts. Same with, I guess, sports too. It's probably similar. It's like do where something's on the line and you'd be surprised how much your body changes at that point. And that's something you can't ever completely manage for self-defense stuff. So
yeah. All right. So with that, folks, we took a little bit different angle with this episode, but I think it was high value.
I think it works.
And where can people find us, Levi?
TheGrapplingPodcast.com.
All right. And if you guys have, if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with a friend. We always really appreciate that and it helps grow the show. Also, if you like the podcast, please give us 5 stars and say something really sweet about us.
And if you're ever in the Appleton area in Wisconsin, check out theoryjujitsu.com. Check out our studio. We've been having a lot of visitors lately.
Oh, yeah.
So
Tons of visitors.
More of an
Awesome.
influx of visitors. So happy to have everyone come train. First class is free. Come hang out, have fun. Cool. See you guys later.
Got no ass.